Hi, I'm Jonathan from Some Talented People, and this is the last episode of our How to Use Space series. And we obviously heard from Niall yesterday, and I guess this is where we're going to touch on the specifics of physical space, virtual space, metaphoric space and psychological space, and you should go away from this with a few tips that you can use if the space around you is feeling more pinched than normal. So let's go for the first tip too.
So some tips for maybe those folks that are watching, maybe they've heard of these tips before, but to me it's actually, I found a lot of people are moving more towards some form of meditation during the day. And what I found good for people I've chatted to, they late at night, in the quiet of the night, when it's very still, just before they go to bed, half an hour or so, they go and meditate, or they go and think with nothing, no noise around them. Funny enough, I was talking to someone last night and it was raining, and the person is in their 60s, and he said he was going to go and stand in the rain and get totally wet because he had had a stressful week. He was just going to sit in the rain and enjoy that space because he knew he could go and have a hot shower or a hot bath later. And I spoke to him today, and he actually felt quite comfortable and a lot more relaxed because he did that. And so many people now on digital face-to-face, there's so many things they think they can't they can't control. They can. Don't worry about the uncontrollable. Just go and talking to people. I found that try to change their spaces, especially business people, where they're working from. They try and they change the background that is looking at the ocean or their garden. One business person I spoke to, he was out in his garden. It was in the evening. It was a good chat, and he said, "I'm going to have a little gin and tonic." You know what I mean? And I suppose back in the day, you couldn't have done that. Well, I suppose some people sat around the boardroom table and had a beer and had a chit chat. But now it's just you go and find what actually works for you. And you've got to keep on working at it so it becomes a habit.
Yeah.
And then you've got to break that habit because it gets too ingrained. So it's continually moving from where you are in your present state to a desired state. And to me, it's gaining momentum and continually looking at ways to actually relook at your space. And a fantastic subject we've had over the past 3 or 4 days. So
yeah, fantastic.
Yeah,
no worries.
I mean, and we're all in our own space because we decided to pick certain hats. So I thought I'd be the bad guy today. So.
Well, I wasn't going to mention the hats. I was going to let's see what comments come up. But Jay, now you offer a very, very important vital service for children. Tell us about that. Oh, you're still muted.
Sorry, I'm used to that. One of my things I do is I kind of facilitate creative spaces. I like to gather people together, kids together, to learn, to create and have fun, importantly. And my whole model, I call it an iambic model, is around play and actually encouraging play and creativity. And here we are playing with our, in flow, playing in hats. And with kids, I think it gets too serious, and and kids are naturally playful, naturally present, and they teach us to be present. And actually what we do is we add doing onto them and all the stuff onto them. And actually if we spend time with kids, like we're being big kids now, we're all kids, then we play, and they teach us to kind of get to that state. And I host, like you've got the logo there, Random Dialogues, is a creative space for adults in which we do quite a lot of story sharing together, and like a bit of a maker space, I guess, an online maker space to gather, learn, create and have fun. So That's kind of what I enjoy doing.
Did you mention to me about a children's online support group?
Yes, so I have something called Resilient Kids.
Okay.
Which was my own way of creating a utopian school where kids could come and gather like we've just done today. And we've been kind of, I think, playing for the last 24 hours with ideas, haven't we? And It's almost like, here I am, what do you want to do? Okay, let's do it. And then when I'm offline with it, great, we can do stuff. But online, I kind of I do it monthly just to see how it grows and goes.
How does one get access to that for their children?
gosh, I think it's resilientkids.co.uk should take you to a place I've made something.
Okay.
There's like a wellness group once a month for them. So yeah, or maybe janetyson.co.uk will probably be just listing.
Sure. What we'll do as well is after the call, I'll get the link to it and we'll put it in the posts.
Thanks a lot. That'd be great.
That'd be great.
I've got a website I have made on Google.
Fantastic. Yeah, we all have, I know, but websites aren't what we're about. We're about connecting. So
exactly. So I kind of just let it flow.
yeah, exactly. Niall, give us your top tips.
Yeah, so I think in terms of...
Sorry, I just forgot. Quickly, from yesterday, Jane, you do the walks in the forest as well, don't you?
Yes. So I run a Guildford Wellness group, which was quite an accidental thing I put on. We've got about quite a few hundred members in that now. And monthly, again, I put on these it's called Forest Immersion Technique, or FIT, which sounded better than NIT, Nature Immersion Technique. So it's FIT. So we go out into nature. I've written a book on mindfulness. I've got this book called Magic and Mindfulness. I think about one person has bought it. But we go out into nature and we play, and then we have some time where we're quiet.
Nice. Right, Niall.
Yeah, I think in terms of practical tips around spaces, I'm totally with Guy in terms of I think meditation, having a routine of meditation, 15 minutes morning, 15 minutes evening, having good routine around sleep, generally looking after yourself, but also finding some ways to create your own fun and crazy things and quirky things. Maybe us wearing hats is sort of part of that. I definitely think also movement is important. We can spend days now at home alone, and sort of getting out, walking, cycling, some kind of movement, and even calling someone every day who deserves to be called. In terms of creating that one-to-one space with someone. I am also a big advocate of fire spaces as the ultimate space, and you can create it using a candle around a dining table, with a fireplace, with a barbecue on a terrace or in a garden. And then create any of those other kinds of spaces with whichever dynamic you want, but around a fire space, because it kind of creates that little bit of focus. And finally, just in general, I think to invest in relationships, whether that's friends, family, colleagues, showing each other appreciation and love, and actually trying to create some fun time, so some games and that kind of thing. So I realise it's much more virtual now than normal, but if we don't force it, then we'll probably end up a little bit sick of it all, let's say.
Yeah, it's very interesting actually, because I have a regular Zoom with two of my brain people, and I'm quite controlled for this because it's a professional broadcast. But when we're talking on Zoom, we're bing dong ding dong ding dong ding 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 ding, and it's a real joy to speak to them. And every time I do, we get ideas that come up, and it's a really stimulating thing. So yes, maybe at first it may feel like you're forcing it, but actually what you're doing is you're developing a new friendship. And I think
you have to force it a little bit to start.
Yeah, to start with, because before you start, you don't know whether or not you're going to like and gel with a person. So yeah, it's very, very critical. But a couple of things that are true for me that allow me to have great peace. The first of those things is that several years ago, so I'm 13 years after my stroke, so maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I started saying, do you know what? I'm not going to obey your narrative about exercise critical to my mental health. So that's what I'd say to people. Disconnect. People are from news, but disconnect more. And the very polarized debates that are happening in the world at the moment are because we're afraid of you. All right, people, everyone wave. Pull a hats. Yeah, hats. Pull a silly face. Right, cool. Hopefully those tips were useful for you guys. So we're going to be posting these videos out over the next week or so, and I hope they're useful to you. And we're looking to have cross conversations like this with 3 or 4 people, basically getting the benefit of their brains to give you some added value. So if you'd like to take part, either connect with Guy, with myself, with Jane, or with Niall, and we shall have some discussions that stimulate you and focus on areas you want to look at. Okay, take care, have a great day. I'll see you again.